And we are live. Okay, so here we go. We're talking about the purchase agreement today, and we're going to be covering pages 1 through 5 of just the RPA. We're not talking about any of the addendums that go with it, any of the disclosures that go with it. We're specifically going to be covering this document here. I have provided it to you in the email that you received today, a copy of this document here with all the highlights that we've made, the items that you need to pay close attention to. So please keep that for your reference in the future should you have any questions about how you should be filling out your purchase agreement. Okay? So let's go ahead and get started. So you see we've got pink. Pink is the color that I've used on my screen here. Hopefully you're following along or you're taking notes. First thing there in the top left-hand corner is the date prepared. All right, that is not well, that date is the date that you write it. Moving forward, there are other documents that you will have in reference to your purchase agreement. It is always going to be based on the date it was prepared. So if you're writing a counter offer or responding to a counter offer, it should say referencing purchase agreement dated, and that is the date right there, which you'll see in the top left-hand corner here. All right. I don't know if my screen is blue for you guys or not. I don't know why it's blue. Should be white now. Might have been blue for you, but I fixed that for you. All right. So that's what we're talking about right there. All right. I'm going to go ahead and adjust this so I can actually should be able to draw on this guy for you guys. So that way you can see. I'll make sure that. All right, on. So that's what we're referencing right here. All right, everybody see what we're talking about? You see me drawing on the screen? Everybody can see that? Great. So some other basics that we're talking about here. Again, this class covers the basics and also some tips. So we got to cover some of the basics first. This is an offer from, okay? This is an offer from would be, of course, your client's names, buyer's names there. The real property to be acquired is, this is going to be the address that you'll find typically in the MLS. Double check that everything's right when you pull realist tax in this next line right here. All right, as you see me draw there. And then, of course, some things that you don't want to forget. Now, of course, the city and the state are all there, rather city and county are all there. But this little space right here, see the assessor's parcel number right there? Sometimes agents will miss that. And so make sure that you don't miss the assessor's parcel number. That is also what's going to go in this blank space right here. Good offers that have all of the pertinent information required have a less chance of being kicked back and a higher probability of being accepted. All right. Purchase price, very simple to get that in there. All you're going to do is type it in. The dollars are right here, and then the wording is going to happen. It's going to actually happen on its own. It's going to find itself right here once you type in the dollar amount right here. All right. So everybody follows that portion right there. Now you get to choose close of escrow on the offer, and you want to be aware of what you're checking there. There is an option for you here under this little blue box right there, where you can have a specific date, or you can have a range of time right here, which could be, you can maybe put 30 days, 45 days in that space right there. Okay, so everybody follows me where we're at right there in regards to your escrow. So if it's a 30-day escrow, write your 30 days in there, 45. Right now, if you can trim that time down by any stretch at all, that's going to improve your offer. So for those looking for tips and tricks, talk to your lender and ask them, is it possible to get this thing done in less than 30 days? If it is and they agree to it, then you want to make sure you write that in. If they say they can get that offer done in 21 days, put 21 days in there. That's a faster closing time. That's a stronger offer than maybe with the other offers that are coming in at maybe 30 or 45 days. Some of these lenders are taking up to 60 days to close some of these offers. So you want to make sure that you can give your clients a leg up by putting that in that space right there once you've had the conversation with the lender. All right. Any questions? The basics on paragraph 1. The very basics. Everybody following me? Right on. Welcome to the camera screen, Anne-Marie. Wow, look at that. There's two of us now. Besides, oh, there's three. Me, Anne-Marie, and Nora. Checking it out. We are down to number 2, which is agency. Agents love to just skip this part. They love to not pay attention for whatever reason, and they don't put in the pertinent information. If you don't put in the pertinent information, you can write an addendum to the contract that covers it all, but this shows that you're not the proficient agent that you claim to be. You always want to make sure that whoever is representing whoever party is checked. So the first one talks about seller's firm. So whoever the seller is, you can get all of that, of course, from the MLS. And then you want to check the box. Don't forget to check the box if they represent seller. All right, if it's both sides, there's an option for us to check the dual agency right there. And of course, you representing the buyer's brokerage, you want to make sure that you check your box as well if it's the buyer. All right, and then of course, don't forget, I see these missing, and sometimes they're even wrong. You can get this on the MLS. What is the license number for the brokerage? What is the license number for the agent who represents the seller? And then of course, your own, oops, that guy's moving along with me. You could also your own brokerage license number, as well as, why did that make a box? As well as your license number as well. All right, so make sure that those things are not missing. The very first page of the offer, when an agent gets this and these things are missing, right out the gate, they know this agent's not getting things done right. All right, so make sure that you have those small little pieces covered. Okay. For my new agents, this for you right here, this little box that's already checked. It's already checked always because it comes with the offer and the RPA when you download it from Zip Forms, is the possible representation of more than one buyer or seller. That just says that that disclosure is provided. So that's what that little box that's checked right there is. All right. And you'll be explaining it. We're not going to go over that today, but just so you know what that is. All right. This is the fun portion right here. Paragraph 3 is the financing terms. All right. You need to know how to fill this out. Okay. You can't just put anything on there. So let's use an example of an FHA 3.5% down, $400,000 purchase. Okay. Let's just use that as an example. And so typically, as we start here, the initial deposit, which is right here, you're going to put that right there. What is your client's earnest money going to be? Right? Well, in this case, $400,000 down. Typically, earnest money is anywhere between 1% and 3%. So that's $4,000 to $12,000, right? So we're going to go ahead and say that our client's going to put $12,000 down. They're going to put the highest amount down. So they got it in the bank. There's no reason to hold on to it. Let's show we got a strong offer, okay? So on a $400,000 purchase at 3.5% down, what would the first loan amount be? All right? You're down here where it's this first loan amount. We're down here. Can anyone tell me what would be the first loan amount on a $400,000 purchase at 3.5% down? What is the loan amount for that? Who's got the answer for me? Because you got to put it in here, right? You're writing an offer, 3.5% down. What's it going to be? Well, 10% be easy because you'd be like, oh, it's $40,000, $40,000 off of 400,000. That would be $360,000, right? That'd be your first loan amount. But this is a 3.5%. You get a lot of these FHAs. Who can give me that number? Anne-Marie, 14,000. No one's talking to me. I didn't see the chat box, but there it is, right? 14 grand. Well, that's going to be the 3.5%. Oh, there it is. I see Kim, 386. You guys are in the chat box. My bad. I didn't see it. Absolutely right. $386,000. That's going to be your first loan amount right there. So you're going to type that in your little box. Okay. And if it's an FHA, you got to make sure that you check these boxes. Okay. So I have went ahead and highlighted these for you. If it's an FHA, you got to check that FHA box right there. That's going to produce another addendum. All right. And that other addendum just states that it can't be above, the home can't sell for less than the appraised value that's offered here for the purchase of the home. Okay. We're not going to get into that today, but you need to make sure you check that box. And the same thing, if it is VA, the same deal, you want to make sure that you're checking that box. All right. Don't miss your little boxes there. So what will happen here, the way that this here will look is you'll have $10,000 up here that we talked about, $386,000 right here. So the balance due, which is going to be right here from your buyers, is going to be $4,000. Okay, because that's going to be 10 plus 386 plus the $4,000 is going to bring a total purchase price of that 400,000. That's going to populate right there. Okay. The financing piece is critical for you guys to understand and know how to fill that out. And 400,000 is easy, right? But you need to know how to do the math. The simple way is take whatever the purchase price is times 96.5. All right. It's 3.5%. And that's going to give you what that amount is going to be to put in for that first loan amount. Okay. If by chance, and this is, I'm going to tell you right now, this is going to get you, this is going to kill your deal right now. All right. This is going to kill your deal. You used to see these. Again, this is for, well, maybe when we're not in such a strong seller's market. If by chance your buyers need some sort of closing cost, typically you'll see it in this space right here. Additional financing terms. All right. However, in this market, if your buyers need closing costs, the likelihood of you getting your offer accepted is very, very, very low. I ran some numbers just to see what was going on because I had a client looking out in Hemet and San Jacinto. So I pulled the last 30 sales, rather the last 30 days of sales in San Jacinto. They were looking in between the $300,000, $400,000 range, right? So I just wanted to see what had happened. And I pulled 42 sales in San Jacinto within the last 30 days. Of those 42, there were 3 that had substantial closing costs that were paid. 2 were $10,000, 1 was $13,000. All 3 of those, new homes. Okay, so that takes out the resale market. New homes, and I can tell you right now, those new homes, they've been waiting for months to get into that new home. That didn't just, they wouldn't put in an offer and they went in. That's just not the way it's happening with new homes right now. It's seriously like January before you can even get into those. All right, so I looked at the other remaining homes. There were 3 other homes that had closing costs. There was one that had $2,500 of the 42, right? The other 2 had, they paid for a home warranty, about $500. Apart from that, none of the homes that closed had any closing costs that were paid. So basically, if we wash out the new home builds, which don't count in the resale market, right, for closing costs that sellers are willing to pay, we were at 2 home warranties that were paid, and we had $2,500 on one. That was a lucky guy got in. I'm not sure what the whole situation was on that. So closing costs, what we typically write in this additional financing terms portion right here, probably most likely not going to get it done. You need to talk to your clients. You need to talk to their lender and see what else you guys can do to be creative to get rid of those closing costs. Because I want to tell you right now, closing costs, not an option right now. I mean, I got a buyer right now who we've put in, I don't know how many offers. They need $10,000 in closing. It's not happening. You know, it's just not happening right now. We're trying to do some creative financing with our lender to see if we can get some lender credits, you know, what else they can borrow, get a gift. Because honestly, right now, the homes are being sold. Those same homes that I looked at, they all sold for anywhere from $5,000 to $25,000 over asking price. So you have to think to yourself, if your seller or if your buyer is putting in an offer and they think, oh, we're going 20,000 or we're going 50, let's just say we're going 15,000 over asking price because we need 10,000 in closing, you're actually only 5,000 over asking. That's what you really are. And the other offers that are coming in clean that are 10 or 15,000, they've already beat you. You're already like, you've got no chance. And these homes have to appraise still when they see that. So that's another condition that you need to be aware of. Any questions on what we've covered so far on page 1?
Yes.
What you got?
You said that the average buyer, when they give their good faith or whatever that good earnest money down, is between 1% and 4%. What happens when you have a buyer that says, I only want to do 1,000 down? I mean, that's good faith.
And you're going to have that conversation with your client. Great question. Thanks for asking that. Is the standard has always been 1% to 3%. So any home, we're putting a minimum of 1% down, unless it's a VA. VAs, you can get away with putting $1,000 in because they're not actually paying anything out of pocket anyway. But besides their closing costs, but you're going to want to put the EMD shows the skin in the game that the buyer is willing to put in. So this is the way that I explained it to my clients. Okay. On this loan right here, $400,000 loan, we've got to pay $14,000. That's coming out of pocket for us. There's no reason why we can't go ahead and put $10,000 or even $14,000 down as our earnest money. Why? Because it's protected through our contingencies. So if we cancel, we can ask for that money back. That money doesn't go to the seller. It goes to a neutral deposit in escrow. Okay? So that's how I encourage my clients. Hey, listen, Put all your money, put all your cards right there on the roll, put all your chips on the table, I should say, and let them know that you're serious, because we can get your money back should you choose to cancel, most likely. All right, should we not have a breach of contract on our end? Does that make sense?
Yes, I have one more question as well.
Mm-hmm.
Up at the top, you talked about dual agency. Let's say I bring a buyer and it's someone in the office that's the selling agent. Is that considered a dual agency?
Another great question. Yes, it is. So
Okay.
if it is under the same brokerage, it is considered a dual agent. So in both of these lines, it would say Century 21 Preferred. You would check this box right here, and it will be checked as well right here. All of the both buyer and seller dual agencies would be checked there. And it would just be the names of the respective agents on those lines. And then, of course, same license number for the brokerage. Great question.
Okay.
All right. Moving down to page 2. You'll see at the top of the page, we've always got the address for the property will always be there. That'll auto-populate. The date's going to be there from when you had actually created this, this document will be there as well. Verification of down payment and closing costs. This line right here says that within 3 days, you're going to provide what we call proof of funds, showing that you have that $14,000 and maybe another $12,000 that you need for your closing costs. So they're going to have bank accounts that show that you have a balance of $26,000 that you can pay. Okay? That's what this is saying right here. Verification attached is what I always encourage you to do. You want to show proof that your clients have it. You got, listen, guys, we're not here to play games. You can't show me what you got. Listen, we're not submitting an offer if we don't have that there, because that's going to strengthen your offer. You've got 3 days to provide it, but why go ahead and wait 3 days? Why get into what could be a bidding war if you've got a strong offer and you check the box and you supply that with your offer? Okay, so remember that when you're putting together your offer, I check that box all the time. Send me your bank statements. Just always make sure you blank out, if your client didn't do it, their account numbers. Okay, just a little tidbit right there. Don't show your client's account numbers. All right, everybody good on that one right there? Very good. Appraisal, contingency, removal. So you've got, according to this standard offer, is 17 days to remove your appraisal contingency. Okay. Now, what I'm seeing is these are actually being reduced. They're being reduced for anywhere from 14, 10, as short a period of time as you can possibly. So you need to have a conversation with your lender as how quickly do you think we can get this appraisal done? All right, because if you're able to get an appraisal done faster, that strengthens your offer as well. So say, for instance, the one that we just put in escrow, the buyer, I represent the seller, but the buyer showed up. We opened escrow on a Thursday. On Monday, the appraiser called me and was there on Tuesday and done. So I don't know who their appraiser is, but that was a done deal. Like, they didn't ask for any extra time, but if you're having a conversation with your clients and their lender, you're going to know that they can get that done sooner. Reducing that contingency period strengthens your offer, because they know that if you don't like the home, you're going to walk away and move on. They're going to be able to market it to another potential buyer. All right. So that's what that's talking about right there, the 17 days for the appraisal. Again, if you can adjust that, you would put in here whatever that new time frame was going to be. All right. Loan terms. This is another box that you got to check right here. All right. This is basically stating I have a pre-approval letter. It's interesting because I have a sister-in-law and they're out in Seattle, and apparently in Seattle, I guess they do business a little different. They'll actually show properties to people who haven't been pre-approved. I would never do that. If you're not pre-approved, we're not even looking at homes, because we're not even sure that you can actually buy the home that you're looking at. Does that make sense? So this right here, checking this box, says that you have attached, again, you have 3 days like that of the proof of funds to be able to supply the pre-approval letter, but you want that done with your offer. Don't show any homes, don't submit offers without having it attached. Send it with it. A lot of the agents are actually requesting it right there in the MLS. Send your proof of funds, send your pre-approval with your purchase agreement. Don't send it without it. Just keep it until you can get all those things ironed out. You know, we've got clients, buyers that are getting, we're getting sellers that are getting anywhere from 15, 20, and 30 offers on a property. So you have to ask yourself, how am I going to compete against that, right? The way that you're going to compete, first and foremost, is a very well-written offer. All right, that shows that you're a professional agent, you know what you're doing. Talking to your lender and seeing if there's anything you can do to reduce some of these timeframes for something like the appraisal, okay? This next guy right here, moving down to the loan contingency, we've got 21 days as your loan contingency. If your lender can get it done sooner, then you can adjust this as well. You don't have to leave it at 21 days if they can get it done sooner, all right? But you have to have that conversation with your lender and say, hey, can we get it, like we put in an offer just last week, we got accepted, but we got, a counter came back from the seller and said, reduce your loan and your appraisal contingency to 17 days. Now, fortunately for us, there was no other offers on the table. So we kicked back and said, well, we talked to our lender and our lender said they can't do it in 17 days. So because we're the only offer on the table, we're going to request the 21 days that it states in the purchase agreement. Everybody agreed to it. Are moving forward, right? So we can stay in contract. But if you're competing and you've got a lender that can get it done, not all lenders are super busy. Now they're busy, but there are those who just aren't as busy as others. So you have a buyer or a lender who isn't as busy as some of these other lenders, then guess what? Maybe they can get it done a little sooner. And then that's going to strengthen your offer as well. So see about that loan contingency and see if you can get it reduced. All right. If you've got a client out there and maybe they're a cash buyer, of course, you've got this option here for the no loan contingency. Make sure you check that box right there. All right. Everybody good on that? Check the box right there. No loan contingency. That's a huge one right there. If you're able to do that, you guys can rock and roll. All right. You've got a super strong offer with no loan contingency. All right.
Okay, David, it's Ellen. Yeah, I have a cash buyer right now. We made an offer, and then when I click that loan contingency thing, it doesn't allow me, but it's understood because it's cash. It doesn't. I tried clicking it. It won't allow me to click that no loan contingency in the offer.
Maybe how you might have filled this out. You need to make sure that you check this box right here.
Yeah, okay, I checked that. Yeah.
And then
but it's okay.
You have nothing in the loan boxes, right?
Nothing, yeah.
That's interesting. We'll have to take
That's
a look.
Okay. I know. I just kind of want to point it out to you.
Yeah, because it should allow you to check that box right there, no loan contingency. All right. Thanks for sharing that, Ellen. All right. Lender limits on buyer credits. We're not going to go over that today. And then buyer stated financing, that just talks about they're going to use the financing stated here in the that's mentioned and the letter that is attached. This is probably not happening, or this is again very tough to get accepted right now, is the sale of a buyer's property. Let's say, for instance, you have a contingent seller or buyer who's still selling. So because of how tough the market is right now, if you do have a buyer who needs to sell their property to purchase, you do have to check this box here. You will get the COP form. You will have to fill that out. If you're submitting that offer, you will most likely need that home to already be in escrow. All right. It definitely has to be listed. Don't even let your clients fool you and say, well, we're not going to list our home until we get in escrow on another home. You're not going to get an escrow on another home right now in this market, most likely, if your home is not already listed, because they're going to say, well, you got to get it listed, then you got to get an offer, and then you got to get an escrow. And I'm not going to hold that up when I can get this guy over here who's non-contingent, this other buyer, and they're going to take that offer. So that's another way you can strengthen your offer. If you don't need to, of course, you're not going to check that. If you do have to have a home that is on a contingent sale, you want to make sure that it's already in escrow and you filled out the appropriate documentation, disclosures, and addendums that go with this offer. Okay? Any questions or anything we've covered so far? Right on. If there's any addendums that you're adding to the contract, this is what you need to know. This right here, I want to circle this guy right here, the septic, well, and property monument. Okay. If you have a property that has a septic, if it has a well, or if it's land and you want to mark the corners, you need to check this box and it's going to produce for you the SWPI. We're not going to go over that one today, but it will go over that for you. And you need to fill that out appropriately. Again, we can go over that in another class, but you need to check that if it pertains to the property. All right. Some properties are in a trust. You'll see that, have that conversation. You'll need to have the trust advisory as well. So make sure that you check that, and then that addendum as well will be added to your contract. Okay. Standard always, which is checked right here, is the buyer's inspection advisory. That's always standard. It's there. You don't have to do anything. It shows up on its own. It's always a part of the agreement. All right. We're not going to go over the other ones with you today. They're not used as often. Okay. Here's where we can get some real strength into these offers. All right. So we're looking to get these offers accepted. We're having difficulties. The allocation of cost. Who's paying for what? All right. When we start making some adjustments here, you've got some options out there. The first one here is the natural hazards disclosure report. Guess what? That is a statutory requirement by the sellers to cover that. The sellers pay for this bad boy. Okay? Sellers pay for it. It's $89, $100, whatever the case is going to be, whoever they're using, you can check that box. Okay? You're going to put in here, prepared by seller's choice. They can choose whoever they want to. I do recommend that you ask for the environmental. All right? That's just the report in its entirety, I should say. So I would recommend you ask for that. You don't have to, but it's for protection of your buyers. So you do have to remember that as well as we're trying to get these offers accepted, you still have to look out for your buyer's best interests. All right. So just remember that. Then we get down here. Now, for every home, we're always typically asking for a termite inspection report. All right. So that's what's going to go right here in this next line here, the termite inspection report. Now, we used to ask for sellers to pay for that. No big deal, $100. I'm going to tell you right now, don't even think about it. Just put an X through that bad boy. All right, tell your buyers to pay for it. That's going to strengthen your offer. We're not asking them to pay for it. We'll do our own inspection. Okay, just get it out of your mind. If you as an agent want to cover it, you can do that as well. These can be paid through escrow, so there's actually no out-of-pocket funds a lot of times with these companies for your buyers. So let them know that. All right, we can get this paid through escrow. That's the inspection. If there's Section 1 or work that needs to be done later, well, we'll discuss that when we get there. All right? Do not put Section 1 in here. Don't ask for any clearance unless it's a VA. If you represent a buyer for a VA, guess what? The VA doesn't allow the buyers to pay for it. So unfortunately, in that case, you're going to have to ask for the report. You're going to have to ask for Section 1 to be paid. All right? So keep that in mind for any VA offers. All right, I got one accepted. We closed it. When did we close that one? Beginning of September. I think it was a month ago, end of August, right around there. VA buyer. We needed $5,000 in closing costs, and we needed Section 1 clearance. We wrote a really strong offer over asking. We had a solid lender who could get the job done, and we competed against, in that case, I think there were only like 6 offers, but we won, even with those terms that we needed. We had good communication with the other side, and again, our offer was clean. We didn't miss any boxes or any things that needed to be checked. All right, so it is possible. Again, it's just more challenging. That was a 55 and over community, so that that market is a little easier right now than, of course, your standard market. So just keep that in mind. Any questions on what we've covered so far there? I got nothing in my chat box. Everybody's over here just staring at their screens. So I guess everybody's good to go. We're going to move on. Government requirement and retrofit. This right here, you got to check this box. This is smoke alarms, carbon monoxide, and water heater bracing. Sellers got to do that. It's required by law. It's not a problem. It's not going to cost them anything as long as it's already done. If it's not, they need to put in some smoke alarms, carbon monoxide detectors, and the water heaters got to be braced. There's not much you can do with this portion right here, but you got to make sure you at least check the box. You don't check the box, that shows that you're not paying attention to the details, more likelihood that your offer may not be considered. All right. Moving along down here to page 3. Any questions on page 2 before I move on? Everybody's good.
So, David, are you saying like when we make an offer, we just not click it, or we'll say buyer to pay for the retrofit?
No. For the carbon monoxide, water heater, and smoke detector, seller's always doing that. So always make sure you do check the box for the seller, right?
Yeah, for the 2-1 and up to 2-1.
Well, no, that's just B1. Just now, when we get down here, Ellen's jumped right ahead of us She's
Sorry,
here
I
for-
was on the
It's
phone.
all good.
Okay.
It's all good. We were headed there. It's all good.
Okay.
So this right here, sellers shall pay the cost of compliance with any minimum mandatory government inspections and reports. Okay? Or buyer, whoever's going to pay for that. Now, in this market, your buyer's going to pay for this, or you're going to leave it blank. You can leave it blank. I don't know if you knew that or not, but you can leave it blank. The city of Compton, when we sold one recently, the city requires a pre-inspection. So if they say, and they got to pass that pre-inspection, if not, the buyer or the seller has to pay for all of these work to be done. If I say seller shall pay, then that offer is going to get kicked back to me because I maybe don't know what that is that I got to pay for. You see what I'm saying? So I will leave these blank. All right. This typically doesn't apply here. We don't have any in government inspections or reports here in Marietta, but it depends on where you are. Because I know you guys are selling houses all over California. So remember that. Again, that's the city of Compton is specific. So that one right there had to leave it blank. We actually wrote it up because I represented the seller. I told the buyers, not going to happen. We're not paying for anything. So you guys can pay for it. And they paid for it and it got done. This next one right here is the retrofit standards. This is the low flow toilets, faucets, and shower heads. Now, this is not a point of sale, meaning that it does not have to be done. But if you put on here that the seller is to pay for any of that, now they have to be responsible should the law change or whatever the case may be. I leave this one blank as well. We don't even get into that. We just leave it alone. Okay? I don't check these boxes. That's my recommendation. If you're going to check the box in any way right now in this market, guess who's paying for it? That guy right there. Buyer's paying for it. Okay? If anyone's going to, if any box you're checking, those two boxes are the ones you're going to check. You're not going to ask the seller to do that. In this market right here, chances of your offer getting accepted is low. All right. Moving down to
So Addendum also for that as a listing agent, and then the buyers make that an offer. Is it good practice to just counter that?
If you're the listing agent and if you're the listing agent and the seller, and the buyers ask for the sellers to pay for it. Yeah.
Because I get that a lot where they will counter you to remove that. So is it, or just leave it like, I don't know.
No, right now when I write an offer, I leave it blank from when I represent the buyer. And if I represent a seller and it comes over and it asks us sellers to pay for it, I counter it out. Yeah.
Oh, so just good practice.
We're not paying for it. See, the retrofit, again, because it's not a point of sale, it doesn't have to be done.
Okay,
but
yeah.
It depends on where you're writing an offer because see, in San Diego proper, it's actually a point of sale. It has to be done. So someone's got to pay for it, but I'm not writing an offer in San Diego proper. I might be writing an offer in Marietta. Make sense? So you have to know where you're writing this offer up and what guidelines there are and requirements for that particular municipality. Okay?
So how do we find that out for Riverside County?
Riverside County, to all the cities that I know of, it's not required. It's not a point of sale requirement. Now the law was passed, and I think it was 2000 and I don't know if it was 18 when they passed it and said that, you know, you need to put in this retrofit, but it says the law is passed when you sell a home, it has to have these retrofits, but it's not a point of sale. So that means that we want you to do it, but when you sell a house, yeah, you make your own mind up who's going to do it. Okay. But again, the only place that I know specifically is San Diego proper, and that's the city of San Diego that I'm told. I haven't sold a property in San Diego proper. I've never been that far south, just like North County is where I've actually made it as far south as I've worked. So, but just be aware of that because you may get a buyer or seller down there that it may be required. So they've got some different regulations in San Diego County and in San Diego proper. Okay. But for us here, we can leave it blank. It's not a problem. All right. Even in like the first time I encountered it was maybe a year and a half or so ago when I was a condo we were buying some clients down in Escondido, and I was like I normally do. I checked the box for the seller to pay for it, and it came back, and then I got into a discussion and learned a little bit more about how it all works down there, and I just took it out moving forward after that. Okay, great question. Title and escrow. All right. What you can do, this is a couple ways again how you're going to strengthen your offer. Typically, we're checking this box right here for title and for escrow. Buyer and seller, and then in this little box right here, we're going to say each to pay their own fee. All right? That's what you're typically going to put in that box right there. Now, you can strengthen your offer. You can say the buyer is going to pay for all escrow fees. All right? If maybe you can negotiate who escrow is going to be. Okay? Because say, for instance, you can say we're Century 21. I know a lot of us are working now with America's Escrow. If you have the conversation with the agent and say, hey, listen, guys, I know as a seller's agent, you typically choose all services, but I'm going to say if you let us choose escrow, my buyer is going to pay for your seller's escrow fees. Escrow fees are like $1,200, $1,400, something like that. Okay? Then you can, if you've talked to America's Escrow and you can negotiate, maybe you can get those reduced because you're bringing in business to them that would have not necessarily came. So this is a little key. Maybe you can write this down as a note of maybe a way that you can strengthen your offer is if you get the buyer to pay for the seller's escrow fees. Again, you got to be creative when you're writing these things. I'm like, oh my gosh, maybe never thought of that. You got to be creative right now. And then ask, maybe you can use your escrow. All right. If they don't agree to that and they say, nah, just leave it the way it is, that's fine. We'll pay our own escrow fees. Make sure you talk to the agent on the other side and either put seller's choice, although I wouldn't put seller's choice because there's a seller's choice escrow now. You want to put name. I write the name of whatever the escrow company is that they want us to use right in the line there. Okay. If they want Generations Escrow, they want Heritage Escrow, whatever it is, right in the line right there. All right. Good, clean offers, got all the boxes checked and the property boxes filled. This is typically not going to be a negotiation right here as far as title is concerned. The sellers are going to choose that and they're going to put it right in there who it's going to be. All right. Typically not a service that they're going to let you buyers choose unless you choose to pay for it. All right. That's going to increase your cost. If you're able to do that, that's another way. I mean, the box is there. So the buyer has an option to pay for the seller's title insurance policy as well. Okay. So think about that. But again, this one right here, I haven't seen so much. I haven't seen anyone else talking about it as far as like maybe having a buyer pay for it. So typically this box is okay to check for the seller too, and then just put in whoever it is that the seller's agent has asked you to put in that box. Have this conversation. When you are writing an offer, make a phone call. In that phone call, you need to know a couple of things. You need to know who do they want to use for title? Who do they want to use for escrow? And you want to confirm who the sellers are. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. Or actually, I should say it's actually right here in the top here. I'm sorry, no, it's not. No, I'm sorry, I'm not. It's actually at the bottom of the page. Got ahead of myself. Who the seller is, because you can write that in. I just wrote an offer last week, and according to Realist Tax, which is where we can get a lot of our information who sellers are, the home is in a trust. But according to the agent, the home is not in a trust. So who's going to be the seller? You need to know that when you're writing up your documents. So some agents say, oh, I just leave it blank, let them fill it in. When I see an offer that's come in and you've done that due diligence, you've asked me those questions, I know that I've got a competent agent that I'm working with on the other side. And so I'm going to encourage that offer for my clients because you know what? It's going to be most likely a smoother transaction and will actually close escrow. Last thing, I mean, even though we've got these crazy offers getting accepted over asking price, all and so forth, a lot of them are actually falling out. I don't know if you've noticed, a lot of them are falling out of escrow and they have to go back in because the buyer couldn't perform. All these things are happening because the agents didn't do a good job of vetting those buyers. And so that's what you want to do. And so you're going to show yourself to be a solid agent when you're asking these questions and you're putting that into your offer. All right. Moving down to other costs, you should be fine with the county transfer tax. That's standard for the sellers to pay that. Should you want to strengthen it, you could have your buyers pay for it, but I haven't seen anybody changing those yet. If there's a city transfer tax fee, that's only if it's applicable. We don't have those in Murrieta, Temecula, but in some of the other cities outside of here, there are some. Homeowners Association transfer fee, all right? Typically a standard fee for the sellers to pay. So you're okay to check that one right there. Okay. Don't worry about that one. I would check that one. No problem. What I don't check and what I leave alone is this guy right here. Okay. Don't check this. See, this says buyer or seller shall pay HOA fees for preparing all documentation other than those required by Civil Code 4525. All right. This says there's extra fees that you can pay. And should you check this box, those fees that party is going to be responsible for. I've only seen it one time where someone checked the box and there was more fees that they wouldn't have necessarily had to pay for HOA. So I leave that. I don't mess with this box at all. Leave it alone. Okay. D5, On 7, leave it alone. Okay? Don't ask the seller to pay for things that they wouldn't necessarily be responsible for, or they wouldn't necessarily need to pay. There's basically just more taxes, is the way I can see it. All right?
Is that page 7?
That's paragraph 7. This is page 3.
Page 3.
Page 3, paragraph 7, D5. All right? Cool. The only time that I see this box right here is a Lennar home. Lennar homes have what's called a private transfer fee. So if you're not familiar with that, it's not always easy to see who the builder of a home is. If you know there is a transfer fee for that and then you want to see who's going to pay for that, typically you're going to ask the seller to pay for that fee there. Okay? We used to get these. These were easy to ask. Yo.
For new construction homes, they don't use this form. They have their own form.
No, and you're right. This is for a resale on a Lennar home.
Okay.
Right? Yep. Good question, no. Now, we used to be able to ask for these. Really wasn't a big deal. A home warranty. If you're writing an offer now, no home warranty. Don't ask the seller. This box right here for seller? No, 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 no. Take it out. Go ahead. Tell them to buy their own. I'm telling you, if you want to strengthen your offer, just take it out. It's a good idea. Maybe you as an agent, if you want to give them a gift, a good closing gift, you can pay for it. All right. And you can just put an addendum to the contract for escrow, and then they'll take it out of your commission check. But don't ask for. I wouldn't recommend asking the sellers to pay for a home warranty right now.
I've done that twice and they really appreciate it.
Yes, buyers love it. Absolutely love it. Like, man, that's awesome of you, you know, because these things are not cheap. I mean, the cheapest ones are like, that I get from my clients are like $500. You know, they get some of the other ones up to $600, $700, depending on if it's got a pool or a spa. You can get up to almost $1,000 for one of these bad boys. It's a great value to your clients to have it. I would highly recommend they don't buy a home without it, because they just spent a whole bunch of money buying a house. And when the water heater goes out or the AC gives them trouble, the last thing they want to do is have to go replace that. You know, they'll pay the $75 trade call fee. They'll come out, replace it. Everybody rock and roll. Everybody's happy. Okay.
David,
Yo, what's
excuse
up?
me. So if I, as the agent for the buyer, am planning to pay for that, do I still check the buyer box there and then do the addendum? Or
Yeah. Just check the
Okay.
buyer box.
Thank you.
Because the only other, I mean, you could leave it blank, but again, if you're going to put it in here, like I said, you could do extra. You could write an addendum later that you're going to pay. I just put it right here. So that way nobody even forgets that it needs to be covered. You see what I'm saying? So, yep, we're getting the home warranty. We checked the buyer, but I told the buyer I'm going to pay for it, and then I'm going to write an addendum over to escrow, and we're going to get it all squared away. Okay?
Thank you.
You put in the amount that it's going to be there. Check the appropriate boxes. Again, still, if it's upgraded, most of them are. It's automatically upgraded if it's getting an air conditioner, okay? So make sure that you do that. If it's got a pool or a spa, you want to check the box. If you're getting a refrigerator, washer, dryer, check the box. You can put it in this line right here, okay?
Okay, David, I just wanted to clarify. So we have to write an addendum that me as a buyer's agent will pay for the HOA. So it's just a regular addendum form that we do that, or?
For the home warranty, yeah, just a regular addendum.
And make sure you give it to Rebecca too.
Yeah, if
Okay.
you got a TC, make sure your TC's getting it. Yep, for sure. So that everybody knows who's paying for that. Okay? If for whatever reason nobody wants it, you got an option here. You can check. Oh, what happened? Delete that guy. If they don't want one, if no one's going to get it, you do have an option where buyer waives the purchase of a home warranty. You can check that box there. All right? Man, time is flying. We are going to get through page 3, and I don't know how much further we're going to get. All right? This is what's included and excluded in the sale. All right? So sometimes there's a washer or dryer, there's a refrigerator, there's a pool table, there's a spa and a jacuzzi in the backyard. There's all kinds of stuff that sellers may leave, okay? Having the conversation with the agent lets you know what you can or should ask for or should not ask for. If they bought a brand new stainless Samsung, touchscreen refrigerator, and your buyer comes and says, oh man, I really want that, and they've already told you they're not going to leave it, you can't have it, don't check the box. All right, you can't have it. They got to buy their own or bring one from before. All right, and then something that I want you to notate here is this box says all refrigerators. You have to be aware when you're checking this box if there's a refrigerator in the garage or if there's not. So if there's more than one refrigerator, you're asking for all of them when you check that box, all refrigerators. All right, so you can say here all refrigerators except, because there's one in the garage, there's one on the inside, except Samsung in the kitchen. So you're only getting the one in the garage. Okay, make sure that you make the appropriate documentation here. If not, they have to kick it back. We had an agent in our office who they messed up on these boxes here and had to buy a refrigerator. Okay, I don't know how much they bought a refrigerator, but they made a mistake on the box earlier in their career and they ended up having to buy a refrigerator. Okay, don't let that happen to you. Check the appropriate box, have the conversation. Typically, stoves are included and you're okay to check that, but again, have the conversation that it's there, okay, for the stoves. If we got this other box here, you can't always see it now, I'm going to try to circle it. Washers and dryers. If they're leaving washers and dryers, it's okay. Ask the question. All right? Don't just write it on there. Oh, they like the stove, they like the refrigerators, they like the washers, dryer. We're asking for it all. All right? Because we're giving over asking price. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to sell it. All right? These are not fixtures to the property because they can be removed. All right? This is personal property. All right? Washers, dryers, refrigerators. That's why there's a special section here for items included in the sale of the home. All right? Any questions on that one?
Yes, you mentioned fixtures. So we talked about refrigerators, washers and dryers, and appliances and things like that in the house. In my experience of knowing someone who was selling a property, she didn't include the curtain rods that were actually, attached to the wall, and that held up the close of escrow because the buyer made the assumption that that was included in the property when it sold. How do you get around that? Is there a spot there that should be filled out like curtain rods do not go, or is that considered a fixture?
So they are attached to the property. So technically they are fixtures, okay? But that's just a simple conversation. Oh, sorry, it's a message from our agent.
Okay.
You want to have the conversation. Whenever you go into a home and someone has really nice curtains or anything like that, window treatments, we like to call them, you want to have the conversation is, are they leaving this or are they taking it with them? Again, that goes back to that conversation. And they say, no, this is all, because you typically don't take that stuff with you because it fits that home, okay? But they may be wanting to take it with them somewhere else. So again, having that conversation is a critical for your negotiations. Okay, making sure that everybody knows what they're getting, because again, anything that's attached physically to them, like ceiling fans, is the same thing. You can't take the ceiling fans because they're fixed to the property and go put it in another light. That's a fixture that's attached to the property. It goes with it. It becomes real property once it's attached. That's why a washer, a dryer, and a refrigerator are considered personal property because they're not attached. They're plugged in. That's not attached. There's a difference. Make sense? So
Yes, it does.
To be speaking, the curtain itself would be a personal property, but the curtain rod is a fixture because it's attached. Make sense?
Yeah, that's what I thought, but she took them curtain rods with her anyway, so I just was trying to make sure.
It's like the TV mounts, right?
TV mounts. That's actually what we're talking about right here. Since you brought it up, I'll just jump to it real quick. Brackets. Right there, brackets attached to walls, floors, or ceilings for any such component, furniture, or item shall remain with the property. Then they check the box here. Will be removed and hose for other damage shall be repaired but not painted. Okay, so if they take anything that's mounted, and actually I guess it would actually go into going into the curtain rod as well, it's attached. So if you take it, then you've got to fill in holes. And I always check this box. I always tell them to take this crap with them. Will be removed, and the holes and damage will be repaired, and they don't have to paint them. So you can take anything off the wall. We actually want everything gone. Just make sure you fill in the holes when you leave. Okay? If you don't check this box right here, then they're actually going to leave those things. They're supposed to leave them. Okay? Everybody got that?
Yep.
So cool,
Yes.
critical little box right here that you can fill in, and you guys will be good to go. We're not going to make it to any pages after this. We're going to talk a little bit more on the bottom because it's going to be 11:30, and there's no way I'm even going to get into page 4. All right. So if this drags over a little bit longer, that's fine. I want you guys to understand this as you're writing these offers. So we're taking our time with this. All right. Leased or liened items or systems. All right. They need to inform the buyers if they've got, say for instance, like an ADT system. Sometimes those systems can be assumed or they cannot be assumed. This talks about solar systems as well. Anything that's leased or liened that's included or excluded in the prop, they need to have that discussion right here and see what's going to happen with it. All right, and then you can make mention of it. Typically, like the ADTs, though, I've seen those. They're not real good about being able to leave those. Typically, they have to pay those contracts off, and then they take the system out, and then, or they don't take the system out. Then they have they'll leave the system, and then the buyer can basically get it at a discount because the system's already paid for to continue the service. Any items that are excluded from the sale, something specifically that you don't want, okay? The pool table is always the example that I use, or maybe it's the jacuzzi out back that's all jacked up and you don't want it anymore. You put that right in here. We don't want that. So make sure you take it with you when you leave. All right. You know, I had a pool table one time in a garage. They left the pool table in the garage. It was a piece of crap pool table. We ended up pushing that thing out of the end of the driveway, and we put free on it and it disappeared because the buyers didn't want it and the seller would refuse to take it with them. And I was like, this is ridiculous. So we just pushed it out in the street pretty much and said free. It disappeared.
Somebody wants it.
Nobody wanted it, right? Somebody found a use for it. It was cheap. It wasn't great. Like if it had been a nice slate one, probably they would have taken it with them or we could have sold it. But it was just cheap. So we got rid of it. We pushed it out. All right. So those are items included and excluded in the sale. So be familiar with what that portion is covering right there. And then last but not least, to close us out for today's training is closing and possession. Typically this right here, if you got a buyer who's going to be living in the home, you leave this alone where it says buyer intends to occupy the property residence as their primary residence. If it's an investment property though, you do need to check this little box right here which says does not intend. All right. Does not intend, check that box right there. It's going to be an investment property. You need to do that. The lender has to actually see that. Okay. You can't falsify that information. So don't be making stuff up that's not true. That's considered fraud. You lose your license, you get fined for all things like that. Don't do it. All right. And then last but not least, seller occupied or vacant property. This talks about taking possession of the property. The standard for this one is that you're going to take possession of the property at 6 p.m., the close of escrow. If there's any changes that are going to be made to that, you have to check the box. So you can say no later than, you can check this box right here. I'll leave that guy up there. You can check this box right here, no later than, and you can put a calendar day. All right, right in there. No later than 3 days after close of escrow. All right. Now there is a separate addendum that you have to put, a seller in possession and SIP. We won't cover that today as well. That would accompany this, or you can put at a specific time of that date. I'm sorry. My line's all crooked. I like nice circles. Pal. You guys can see my circles. You guys can see what I'm doing. I'm hoping it's working here.
Right.
All right.
Can we get a copy of this?
So you do have a copy, not with all my little drawings on it, but if you check the email that I sent today, this one here with all of the color, the pink and the blue, that is in our email that came out today. So please make sure you download that, save it to your hard drives so that you can go back and all the things that, again, with all these little markups, I did these as we were teaching today. But you can see I didn't, everything that I highlighted or circled is already, rather anything that I circled in red or point to already is, for the most part, circled or highlighted. Okay, rather highlighted. Make sense?
Uh-huh.
Very good.
David, can I ask a quick question, please?
Absolutely.
Back on the attached verification of funds, you know how you were saying, just get all your ducks in a row and send everything. What about a gift? What about a gift letter that my buyer says is coming and the lender says is coming? I should have that in my hands before I present the offer, correct?
Absolutely, because that's going to be going in regards to their proof of funds.
Yeah,
so like, where's their money coming from? So the gift letter is great. A statement from who it's coming from with the money in an account is better. Because I can write a letter to anybody. Say, yeah, I'm going to give my brother $10,000. I don't even have $10,000, right? But I can write a letter. But when I have proof that says I am who I said I am and I'm giving $10,000 and I provided you a bank statement that shows I have the $10,000, now we've got proof of funds.
I did
Perfect,
that
thank you.
with, I did that with my first offer, and I had them give me a copy of their statement, and that pushed our offer through.
Hey, there you go. See, when you put all your ducks in a row and you do what's shows very clearly that you have a able buyer, because everybody's ready and willing, but do you have an able buyer, right, who actually can perform on the contract? When you do that like Donna did there, you got a great chance of getting your offer accepted. Any questions, anything we've covered for pages 1 through 3 of the purchase agreement?
I have one question, Atavid. On the escrow, we were talking about making it a stronger offer of offering to pay for the escrow fees. Typically, what did you say escrow fees typically are with American Escrow?
I think they're like $1,200, $1,400. Right around there
Okay.
per side.
I think that's a good way of using our escrow and getting your offer accepted. I never thought of that.
I literally didn't think of it until we taught this class this morning as I was talking to you guys. So,
And you can ask them to lower some of their fees. Is that what you're trying to do? Behind the scenes, you can work the system.
I see at that point, see, now you have some control because you're like, listen, we're going to use my escrow, you know, and then the escrow officers, you can go in, you can ask questions, and as opposed to, you know, their escrow company that's who knows where it is in Orange County, you know what I'm saying? You can stop by the office anytime. And again, you've got some negotiations that you can do for your buyers, because you're like, hey, listen, I brought you business. So because this business would have been somewhere else, what can we do to make this work for everybody? You see what I'm saying? So your buyers may pay a little bit more, but your offer got accepted, right? And then you're able to negotiate. Maybe you say it's like, I don't know, maybe it's $2,800 for both sides. You say, listen, can you guys do it for $2,000 for both sides? I brought you business. And you know what they're probably going to say? Yep, we can do that. Your offer was accepted. Your guys paid a little bit in basically closing costs. We have to pay all these closing costs anyway. The idea was they got the home that they wanted. They love you because you did what no other agent could do, which was get their offer accepted in these times. Yep. Any other questions? Great questions. Great questions.
So that 1,400 that we're estimating, that's only the buyer. It's not the buyer and the seller.
Yeah, just one side.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Sure. Any other questions?
Yeah, David, could we get that verbiage? I misplaced it, whereby when you're placing an offer, your buyer will go over the highest and best offer that's on the table, as long as they provide that to you, and you have a ceiling limit on that offer. You know, there's that fancy verbiage. Is that possible we could get that?
I know what you're saying. I've never used it in an offer myself, but I will, I'll work on that for you. Okay, so just text me, Lori, so I can get that to you.
Okay.
What Lori's referencing is offers will be written where they will say, you know, their offer is $400,000. They're willing to pay they're willing to match, no, they're willing to pay $5,000 over whatever the highest offer is, and no more than $420,000. You can put that kind of verbiage in there. And the place that you most likely would put some verbiage like that, maybe you could use the additional financing terms portion right there. I've never put it in any of my offers before, but I'll double check for you, Lori, so that you can have that information. Okay.
Thanks so much.
For sure. Any other questions?
Yes, actually.
Oh, what
I'm
you
just
got,
curious, Adavid, what did you do before you were a realtor? Because you have some good negotiating techniques.
Believe it or not, I built houses. 10 years as a truss manufacturer. So I built, basically your house is made of wood, right? And so the trusses, the little triangles that sit on, that make the roof of your house.
Yeah.
I worked in constructing those for about 10 years, from building them to designing them, all the way up into managing a multi-million-dollar facility out in north of Atlanta. So believe it or not, my negotiations come from a great book that I read, which is Never Split the Difference. We actually taught a class on that. I forget the author of the book. Let me pull it up for you guys. He's a former FBI negotiator. Great short little book. And Who wrote that book? Here it is, books. Never Split the Difference by, come on, I need the author's name. Chris Voss, CHRISVOSS. Never Split the Difference. If I could pull it up here on my screen for you guys, you can kind of see. Boom, that's the book right there. Okay, so Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. I did it on an audio book. It was great. And again, just practice. You know, I've been doing this for 5 years now, and practice. When I first started, trust me, I was nowhere near where I am right now. As we continue to progress, we continue to come to these trainings, you continue to read and educate yourself, you will become that great agent. Again, like if somebody asked the question, you know, what about this, I don't know who just asked it about the escrow fees. I literally just thought of that when we were sitting here having this class. And that's what other agents do as well. You start talking about it and ideas pop in your head like, hey, you know what? That might be an option. Let's ask. You see what I'm saying? And then who knows? It could happen for you. All right. You got to be creative these days. Try things that no one else has done. It might work. 30 offers on the table. I'll share one quick story and then we'll let you guys go. It's 11:36. Paul Wilkinson, who was my mentor when I started, he was in a time where they had a strong seller's market as well. And basically all the agents were coming to the office. So basically just imagine our office, okay? And imagine the buyer is there, rather the seller's there in the conference room, all right? And basically lined up outside are all of the agents with their buyers, and they're bringing in their offer one at a time, okay? And so there's 20 agents outside. And so let's say that Paul was the 5th agent to go in. So he comes in and he presents his offer and they say, okay, well, thank you so much. And basically they're dismissing you. And they say, well, we're going to make a decision later after we reviewed all the offers. And he says, there's only one stipulation for my offer. My client's offer expires when I leave the room. His offer got accepted. All the people standing outside didn't even go in to interview or to submit their offers because he thought outside the box. And he was like, this is my client's offer. I know we've got a strong offer. I've written a very well offer. And guess what? If you want this really good offer, you're going to make a decision right now before I leave the room, because when I walk out the door, it's expired and gone.
Wow.
They accepted his offer, and that was that. So you got to be creative, you know? And so as I listen to these kinds of things right here, that's what I do. Name is David.
What's the next name?
Brody, B-R-O-D-E-N. Thanks. Yeah. All righty. Well, the FedEx guy. Cool. Any other questions? Rock and roll. I'm gonna let you guys go. It's 11:37. Get out there and continue to be the great agents that you are. Thanks for coming out to training. I hope you all you've learned a little bit and you can grow your business from it.